Hey guys, Tarke here, coming at you with a premium path of building Let's Explain Sleeper Ascendancies. So in my most recent video I said I was going to have a 24-hour break for my character, and I mentioned Caustic Arrow Occultist plans I've been working on the last couple of leagues, and people said please share your path of buildings. So I leveled one up over 24 hours, and I planned out a hybrid tree, I planned out a life tree, and I've actually found two people on Poeninja who are doing variants which are very similar to the life tree I planned out. But they're obviously in trade leagues, they've min-maxed it to an insane degree. So I'll show off the hybrid version, I'll show off the acro phase acro version, but first I'll just talk about why you would even consider Occultist. Occultist, Caustic Arrow, used to be very popular way back in the day, kind of like pre-Conquerors, pre-everything. The main appeal was using a Soul Strike and a Baited Breath with Wicked Ward, having crazy high ES recharge and just kind of like face tanking mobs, or having like curses like Temp Chains and Enfeeble active, because this was like pre-Malevolence. This is like a very old school build concept. Now, with the introduction of all these different auras, with curse blasphemies becoming less powerful, with general just like gear power creep, it became less and less popular as a choice. It was still something people would do every now and again. Now, last league, one of the main things that was getting in the way of me planning out my builds was Profane Bloom, and this is probably going to be like the first and only video where someone's like, don't take Profane Bloom, and I'm going to explain why. So, Caustic Arrow is a build that can hit, and you like just use curse on hit rings, or use like skitter bots and use all this other stuff. The way that Caustic Arrow works is you fire and the cloud. The cloud doesn't hit. You only hit if you connect with the projectile, and you don't scale accuracy in this build at all. So you're going to have like an end game, maybe like 70% accuracy at best. So getting Despair on hit with just the Caustic Arrow is a bit sketch. You can use stuff like Frenzy Curse on hits, you can use Void Sphere Curse on hits. If you're using Ascendancy's Chant, which is something I really like doing, I've got multiple Ascendancy Chant Caustic Arrow builds, you can use Soul Run to curse on hit. And in those setups, you're regularly getting the curse on hit just through your regular mapping. And then Profane Bloom will feel pretty good. But generally, you'll have some kind of like dedicated curse setup, be it a Bane curse on hit or a Frenzy curse on hit, that you only really use on bosses and rares. At which point, Profane Bloom isn't that great. However, in 3.13, they split up the Occultist routing, and this basically just revitalized all of the random Occultist CA builds I'd had planned. So you have two options. These three are locked in place, and then you take either Bastion or you take Frigid Wake. I'll explain both. They're both very powerful for different builds. In the acro tree, we take Frigid Wake, and in the hybrid tree, we take Bastion. So, comparing this to, say, like a Trickster, or a Pathfinder, or a Raider, or most recently Deadeye, but it's more of a Toxic Rain thing, what do you really get? So, you gain a little bit of Curse effect, a little bit of Chaos damage from the small nodes, nothing that crazy. Recording, go away. Malediction gives you apply additional curse, increased curse effect. Enemies you curse have malediction. That is enemies deal 10% reduced damage and take 10% increased damage. That is a more multiplier. Void Beacon gives you minus resistances. Nearby enemies have reduced life regen. This is actually quite nice on dot builds. You do notice the life regen sometimes. Apparently this works with Maven. Apparently this doesn't work with Maven. I've had more people saying it doesn't work with Maven than it does. If it did work with Maven, that would make this a lot more attractive. And then Withering Presence gives you 60 Chaos Res, which is very important. Getting Chaos Res is just good. You can very easily cap your Chaos Res with Occultist, which then enables you to use Divine Flesh setups, or you can just cap your Chaos Res for the sake of capping your Chaos Res because it makes you tankier. It gives you 15% more Chaos damage. Every second inflict Withered on a nearby enemy for 15 seconds. This is a very important line we'll come back to. Nearby hindered enemies deal 50% reduced damage over time. The main way of scaling chaos damage is through Wither. Wither can be very difficult to maintain at high stacks on enemies. Most people are like, just use a Wither Totem forehead. A Wither Totem with quality has really good totem placement speed. Even with totem placement speed, Wither Totems feel bad. They regularly die, they regularly target the wrong thing. I've been a big advocate of Withering Step. Withering Step has kind of been how I've applied Wither basically ever since it's been introduced. But Withering Presence basically means that you will always have max 15 stacks of Wither, and they will never fall off. So you press Withering Step once just to like instantly jumpstart, and then you just like instantly apply with a level 21 Withering Step. You instantly apply 7 Withers. You can get alternate quality Withering Step. You can get Withering Step Helmet chance to push it further. But basically, you press the button once, and the enemy instantly has 7. Then every second after that, they're ticking over, and then if you press it twice, they're at max stacks, and they maintain it. Never dropping Wither is like the biggest quality of life, and it also saves you a 4-link because you then don't need a Wither totem. You're already going to be using like a dash second wind or a guard skill second wind, so you basically trade a 4-link for a 1-link by just adding Withering Step in there. You will always have max stacks of Wither. It saves you 3 sockets. That's very big. So then, why would you take Val Bastion, or why would you take Frigid Wake? So in the hybrid build, which is what I'm going to talk about, the hybrid and the life build, you get stun immunity. Stun immunity is massive. Anyone who's ever played Trickster can attest to how good the stun immunity comes from that. The stun immunity can feel less consistent on Trickster though, because it's based on you having your Ghost Shrouds active, and when those Ghost Shrouds fall off, it feels really bad getting stunned in the middle of the pack. Val Bastion is more consistent stun immunity. Every now and again you will lose all of your ES, but it's pretty difficult to lose all your ES when you have a big chunk of ES recharge rate through Soul Strike and just passive regen. So it gives you passive regen, and it gives you stun immunity. That makes it worthwhile. Frigid Wake. Now Frigid Wake, you have to think for a second, but Frigid Wake is exceptionally strong and is the main draw of why I want to swap from the hybrid tree to the acro tree, which I'll show you in a second. So getting Cannot Be Chilled, Cannot Be Frozen is just very nice. Really good for bossing. Having 100% uptime on freeze and chill immune is very good defense. Freeze up flask slots, it's just strong. Every 4 seconds, 33% chance to freeze nearby chilled unique enemies for 0.6 seconds. This is scaled by temp chains, and you use temp chains. The 2 curses you use in this build are Despair and temp chains. So every 4 seconds, 1 in 3 chance that you just kind of like pause the fight for a second, which doesn't sound that great, but over the course of a longer fight, like just anything influenced by Maven, when you're getting into like the Uber Elders, double Shapers, Maven herself, just being able to pause the fight, getting that respite every now and again is a really nice quality of life. And then just for mapping, every 4 seconds you just freeze all nearby chilled enemies is really good. And then nearby chilled enemies deal 10% reduced damage with hits. You're like, okay, but Tarke, how are you chilling in this build? Skitterbots. A lot of people, when they play Occultist, and they're like, oh, Skitterbots, use Skitterbot's Profane Proxy, and they turn the chill into a Despair Aura. I don't like that because you're losing an entire ring worth of stats, and you get good mods on rings. And you lose chill, and chill is very good defensively. Chill in combination with temp chains for bossing is huge. Slowing bosses is the best way to mitigate getting hit. This is true on both the hybrid build and on the acro build. The slower the boss is, the more time you have to do everything. All of their telegraphs are slowed down. Frigid Wake is actually exceptionally good. So this is just something I just threw together. I'm level 87. This is just all my current gear. This is just gear I just had in SSF. This was just like a test of concept. And you'll see 4.8k life, 4.6k energy shield. All gear I currently have with the like finished tree. It goes up to 5.7k life, 4.7k ES. You could push this a lot further with the Life is ES Chestcraft and the Timeless Jewel. I just don't have access to either of those. There's also the Replica Soul Tether is another way of getting that. It's just an interesting concept. So this is all with gear that I just currently had equipped with a Soul Strike, just shy 1.4 more damage, and that's with a level 4 in power, because I have a level 4 in power, 21 Caustic Arrow, standard 6 link. The other nice thing about hybrid builds is you use damage on full life instead of Conk Effect. Most people use Conk Effect instead of damage on full life. Damage on full life, you're nearly always on full life, because you've got this massive ES buffer. The other thing which is really nice about this hybrid tree is you get to take Wind Dancer still. Adding Wind Dancer to the tree is the other thing which kind of like really push this hybrid build. It also means that if you want to do the whole hybrid Trickster thing, I'd probably try and copy routing similar-ish to this. You get to skip down through Ranger, you're getting Charisma, which is very powerful, getting a whole bunch of damage, getting a whole bunch of Flask effect, getting the life, getting some damage, getting some Flask, you're getting Wind Dancer. I think this routing is something you just want to copy on any hybrid dot build that doesn't want to go this way if you're doing the whole like Toxic Rain or Caustic Arrow vibe. So that's there, and I'll give a link to this below. I will now show you the Acro Wind Dancer version, and I will then show you the min-max version on Poeninja. So again, this was just, I just plugged a bow in. I couldn't be bothered to put everything. I just plugged in a bow, just plugged in jewels. The damage from this tree with actual gear is better than the other one, but whatever. So, as I said, the advantage of this one is you get to use Frigid Wake, which is very nice, just getting to pause boss fights fairly consistently every few seconds. And there's a cluster jewel tree and there's a no cluster tree. It's not that much less efficient than doing this as a shadow. The main thing, you're like, oh, but Tarke, but this like horrible witch start. Well, this witch start isn't that horrible if you're putting a timeless jewel in here to do like divine flesh stuff. And then the fact that you get so much more damage out of the raw Ascendancy than you do on a Trickster or a Pathfinder or a Ranger for Caustic Arrow makes up for it. It's the highest just raw damage Ascendancy, and the Withering Step consistency is the main, like, having that consistent max wither when it matters is the thing that people really don't appreciate. It also opens you up to using a Transcendence here if you have access to a Transcendence. Yeah, it's actually not that bad. And it's surprisingly smooth to level. I leveled this build in SSF last league using this tree. Level 2 all the way with Caustic Arrow, no gear, worked. I did the same thing just now in SSF as a test as the hybrid tree. It worked. Super smooth, no issues whatsoever. So I'll show off the cluster tree because the cluster tree is the main thing. And the Poeninja version tree I'll show you, it's a squishier tree, and they just get like insane amounts of damage because they basically drop everything from here, and they run a second cluster jewel setup up it. So we've got a couple of options. You can either use a Chaos Large Jewel, or you can use a Bow Large Jewel. The advantages of using the Bow Large over the Chaos Large is you get more area. And I believe the damage might be slightly higher, but you don't get the stun immunity from Unwavering Evil mid Caustic Arrow, and it's a bit harder to roll. I just used a Chaos one because that's what I had in SSF, but you can use either a Chaos or the Bow one. And that's something I quite like about this build. It wants to use clusters, but you have options. You have 2 different larges you can use. Again, you can use either the Blow one or the Chaos one. You have the options of 3 different mediums. You can use Chaos Dot, just generic dot multi, and you can even use the Flask mods as the mediums, which is really good for SSF because the whole point of SSF is you can't guarantee what you're getting, and all of these are planned kind of around SSF because that's all I play. And then you just use life smalls. So you get Brush with Death, which gives you a chunk of damage over time multiplier. It also gives you % life on kill, which is very, very crucial. And then you can combine this with the more damage setup. I prefer the more defensive setup, which is Flow of Life, which gives you a chunk of damage, a little bit of % life, and some regen. And then for smalls, if you're going to run life smalls, you could go for ailment immunity smalls. There's a few different very powerful small setups you go for, but if you're going to go with life smalls, I like Surging Vitality, just giving you that extra sustain, that extra regen. Yeah, I like regen, I like sustain on bosses. I would run Surgings, but you could go with Thetals, or you could go with ailment immune through dodge stacking, and you could go for max chaos. There's lots of different max chaos resurrecting Divine Flesh. You have options. So that's the one. I will now show you the min-maxed Poeninja version. So I found 2 people doing this. There's this guy. I couldn't see any guides or anything online, and I'm pretty sure this guy just either knows this guy or saw this guy's profile and just copied it. But yeah, very impressive. 6.7 mil Caustic Arrow damage in a Trade League. He is level 100. Double cluster jewel setup, doing the whole Frigid Wake thing. The gear is pretty disgusting. You've got a synth +1 implicit bow, and then he's done the whole fossil crafting thing to get the plus strength, plus dex, you know, all that cool stuff. Despair Curse effect helm on a enemies have minus chaos res. Double dot multi quiver, which is quite easy to craft in Harvest now. +2 Ami with dot multi. Stacked % dodge chest piece with frenzy charge on hit. And then just like damage rings and a tier 0 chaos damage over time multiplied gloves. Like this guy's min-max this character to a pretty insane degree. I just included it for people who want to see the crazy min-max versions. Chaos Multi, Stygian Vise, and then obviously just good old It's Zeri Step. You can't really beat it. For Jules, he went for a Chaos Lodge, double Chaos Lodge. I think the other guy ran a Bow Lodge. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. They both just ran Chaos Lodges. With this guy just ran a 4% damage over time multiplier because he just saw a good one with Brush for Death and Exposure Therapy. Another one with Eldritch Inspiration, Wicked Pal. Eldritch Inspiration, Wicked Pal. Brush for Death, Exposure Therapy. Surging Vitality, Surging Vitality. It's also worth mentioning there are some weird mind over matter trees that people are doing using cluster jewels, because one of the cluster jewels gives you chaos damage based on mana. That's a whole separate thing, but it's a different video. And then this guy is going for Unwavering Evil Wicked Pal, Wavering Evil Wicked Pal, Eldritch Inspiration Wicked Pal, Brush with Death Exposure Therapy, Eldritch Inspiration Wicked Pal, Brush with Death Exposure Therapy, Surging Vitality, Surging Vitality. So I'll give links to everything down below, both of my Path of Buildings, the stuff I've planned for SSF, and then I'll just give a link to the crazy min-max version. I'll give a link to both, sort of. I'll give a link to both of these. If you've got any cool ideas, I always find it interesting people like think outside the box with Ascendancies. Let me know. Updates for my Toxic Rain character. I've had a Devotos drop, which is really nice. So in the next day or two, I need to re-gear it because all the resistances have changed. I'm going to make that like full. I think at this point I can get it close to like 300% movement speed, just full movement speed build, and that's what I'll use to power farm maps. And I'm going to have my Occultist as my bossing character. Yes, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. I hope that was interesting to you. By the way, bye bye.